Hello everyone. Today I'll continue telling you the love story between Sam and Officer Lee. I hope you enjoy the video. Early this morning the air felt strangely pleasant. A gentle breeze drifted through the yard in front of Sam's house, making the leaves quiver lightly. The first rays of sunlight spread a soft golden glow across the brick path, brightening the whole garden with a fresh sense of life. Sam woke up very early. She brushed her hair to one side and sat on the edge of the bed, looking outside. Today, she and Officer Lee had planned to decorate the garden and tidy up the house together. Just the thought of making the place prettier and cozier made her heart feel lighter. She began getting ready, washing her gardening gloves, arranging the pruning tools, tying her hair into a neat ponytail, and choosing a clean, comfortable outfit. No one knew this, but for today she wanted to look a little fresher. Even though she never said it out loud, she always felt the quiet care that Lee gave her. Meanwhile, at his own house, Lee was also busy preparing for this special morning. Before starting his motorbike, he bent down to check the cream-colored box placed neatly on the passenger seat. Inside, a tiny white puppy was curled up, its shiny black eyes staring at him curiously. Every time Lee opened the lid a little, the puppy wagged its short little tail and let out a soft bark as if urging him to hurry and take it to its new owner. Lee chuckled, the corners of his lips lifting gently. All right, we're going. You're about to go to your new home." He stroked the puppy's head and silently thought, "I just hope she'll smile. Even just a little. That would be enough." He had thought about this gift for an entire week. He knew that whenever he was on duty, Sam often stayed home alone, and sometimes she sank into the sadness of her past. He wanted to give her something small and warm, something that could keep her company, a tiny creature that would follow her around the yard, curl up beside the sofa, or wander near her feet while she cooked. Lee looked at the box again, his gaze warm and determined. "From today on, I hope you'll feel less lonely." He gently closed the lid, grabbed his keys and stepped outside. The weather was beautiful and so was his mood. Just a few more minutes, and he would be at Sam's door with this special surprise. At that moment, Sam was watering her flower beds, occasionally glancing toward the alley. She didn't say it, but clearly she was waiting for someone to show up on this strangely beautiful morning. She was arranging small flower pots along the pathway when the familiar sound of a motorbike echoed outside the gate. She looked up, her heart skipping just a little, though she didn't understand why. A few seconds later, Lee stopped his bike at the gate, holding the cream-colored box he had been preparing for days. He stepped down, smiling as he gave her a small bow. "You're up early." Sam smiled back, a soft smile that instantly brightened the whole yard. "Because I was looking forward to today." Those words made Lee's heart soften. Trying to stay composed, he nodded and handed her the box. "This is for you. Open it gently." Surprised, Sam held the box with both hands. It wasn't heavy, but she could feel something moving inside. She glanced at Lee, who only folded his arms and smiled mysteriously. She took a breath and lifted the lid. A tiny white head popped up immediately, with round black eyes shining like 2 drops of water. The puppy barked a soft woof, lost its balance, then shook its head clumsily. Sam froze, shocked, then melting, and in just seconds her eyes shimmered with emotion. "Oh my, it's so adorable," she whispered, her voice trembling. She reached in, and the puppy instantly nuzzled into her hand as if it already knew her. Watching this, Lee's smile turned even gentler. "I wanted you to have some company. For the days I'm on duty, at least you'll have someone to talk to." Sam held the puppy close, its warm little head nudging against her neck. That warmth spread through her chest, a soft, healing kind of ache. "You really bought this for me?" she asked, almost afraid the answer might change. "Yeah," Lee replied. "Do you like it?" She nodded right away, her eyes sparkling with joy she couldn't hide. "I love it. I really love it." Lee narrowed his eyes playfully. "Then you have to take good care of it. Just don't let it sleep on your bed and kick me out." The teasing comment made her blush. She turned away, pretending to focus on the puppy to hide her flustered expression. The puppy barked again, adding even more sweetness to the moment. "All right, shall we start gardening?" Lee asked, breaking the shy atmosphere. "Yes," she answered quickly, still smiling uncontrollably. As they prepared the gardening tools, The little white puppy toddled after them, sometimes tripping because it was too excited. Sam's laughter came more often, more naturally. And each time she laughed, Lee felt a warm glow settle in his chest. The morning was beautiful, the garden was beautiful, but the most beautiful thing was how Sam's heart seemed to open just a little more. Thanks to the tiny gift Lee had chosen with such quiet, genuine care. Both of them began their work by cleaning up the old plant pots in the corner of the yard. Lee rolled up his sleeves and bent down to lift the heavier pots, while Sam carefully trimmed the dry branches with a pair of scissors. The little white puppy ran circles around them, its tail wagging non-stop as if cheering them on. "Let's move these pots closer to the fence so it feels more open," Lee said, his voice low but gentle. "Okay. Let me help you," Sam replied, stepping forward to hold the other side of the pot. It happened in just a tiny moment. Her fingers brushed the back of his hand. Both of them froze for half a second. They didn't look at each other, but they could clearly feel their hearts skip an uneven beat. Lee cleared his throat, trying to stay calm. "Careful, it's heavy." "I can handle it," Sam said, though her voice softened a little. They placed the pot down in its new spot. Lee stood next to her, unintentionally closer than usual. When Sam bent down to adjust the root of the plant, Lee bent down too, and suddenly their faces were less than an arm's length apart. A soft scent from her hair drifted toward him, making his heart race. He quickly turned his head away to hide his fluster. Right then, the white puppy ran over and pawed at Sam's leg, asking to be picked up. She laughed, lifted it into her arms, and pressed her cheek against its soft white fur. "So cute I could faint." Lee watched her, the corner of his lips lifting naturally. "See? I knew you'd fall in love with it." Sam turned to him, her eyes sparkling under the sunlight. "Thank you, really thank you." The moment their eyes met, only a second, but it made the entire morning slow down. In her eyes, Lee no longer saw only sadness. There was something warmer, something hopeful blooming quietly. He quickly looked away and grabbed a few more pots, trying to ease the shy tension. "Go water the flower beds over there. Let me handle the heavy stuff." "Okay." Sam picked up the watering can and walked toward the small vegetable beds they had planted together last time. She tilted the can, letting the water fall in a soft stream over the soil. The little puppy stood right beside her, fascinated by the stream of water. Then, out of excitement, it jumped toward it, only to slip and fall with a soft thud. Sam burst into laughter, her clear voice echoing through the yard. Lee watched her laugh and his heart softened. "This little rascal is as reckless as a kid. Just like you," Sam said before she could stop herself. Lee turned around immediately, wide-eyed. Sam blushed, flustered. I mean because you always tease me." Lee chuckled, his voice warm and deep. "It's fine. I like hearing you say that." The words were gentle as a breeze, but they struck her heart so strongly she nearly dropped the watering can. She lowered her head, avoiding his gaze, though the redness of her ears betrayed her completely. The morning passed with a quiet closeness, small but warm. No confession, no hand-holding, just simple gestures, yet enough for both of them to feel something shifting, soft as wind, slow as a blooming flower, but steady and real. By late morning, they had finished most of the gardening. The sun was higher, and the midday breeze carried a faint scent of orange blossoms into the porch. Sam dusted off her hands, glanced at the clock and said, "Take a break, let me go cook lunch." Lee opened his mouth to offer help, but she smiled and shook her head. "Let me cook today. You sit and babysit the puppy for me." He gave in, sitting on the steps while watching her walk into the kitchen in her gardening clothes. Hair a little messy but her face brighter than it had been in days. Only a few minutes passed before the sounds of chopping, boiling, and sizzling drifted out, and then a soft, savory scent began spreading through the yard. Lee swallowed unconsciously. The smell of food was so good his stomach growled loudly in protest. He rubbed his stomach and teased himself. "Already hungry, huh?" But the aroma grew stronger, the rich smell of braised meat, the warmth of simmering soup, and the golden fragrance of fried shallots. The puppy smelled it too and pawed at Lee's leg as if saying, "Are you hungry?" "Because I am." Lee laughed. "It smells amazing. What on earth is Sam cooking?" He raised his voice so she could hear him inside. Sam replied cheerfully, "You're praising too soon. It might not taste good yet. I don't care what it is, if you cook it, I'll eat it all, Lee said, half teasing, half sincere. The chopsticks in Sam's hand paused for a moment. Her heart softened at his words, but she tried to keep her voice steady. Then you better finish everything later. A moment later she called out, Officer Lee, wash your hands and come eat. Lee jumped up immediately as if afraid the food would disappear. He picked up the puppy, petting its head while walking into the house to wash his hands. With just one glance at the meal on the table, his eyes lit up. Just a few simple dishes. A plate of braised meat, a steaming bowl of vegetable soup, a soft golden omelet, and a small dish of pickled eggplants. That was all. But to Lee it somehow looked unbelievably delicious. He sat down, took his first bite, and nodded vigorously. Oh my God, this is good. Really good. Sam laughed. You only think it's delicious because you're hungry. No. Anything you cook is delicious, Lee said without a second of hesitation. He slowed down his eating, but his eyes sparkled like a kid given his favorite candy. Watching him, Sam felt a warm, peaceful feeling bloom inside her. She never imagined that such a simple meal could fill her small house with so much laughter. The little puppy wandered around their feet, sometimes pawing at Lee's leg for a share, making the lunch even livelier. And in the quietness of midday in that sunlit kitchen, something gentle continued to grow. Not loud, not rushed, but unmistakable and warm like the breath of love itself. After finishing the meal, Lee set his chopsticks down and exhaled softly, as if all the energy he'd spent that morning had finally been replenished. That was so good. It's been a while since a meal made me this happy. Hearing that, something inside Sam gently softened. Go rest outside, I'll clean up. Lee immediately stood up, his voice firm but gentle. No. If you don't let me help, I'll get upset. He sounded serious, but the tone was so soft that it made Sam laugh. All right. You wash the dishes, I'll wipe the table. Lee rolled up his sleeves and stood by the sink. He turned on the faucet, and soap bubbles covered his big hands. Sam stood beside him, wiping each corner of the table. Every now and then she glanced over and saw him holding each bowl as if it were something precious. Why are you washing them so carefully? She asked. Because you cooked them. I have to wash them properly, Lee answered, sounding so certain that she felt her ears turn warm. The noon sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a soft glow over his shoulders, making him look serious yet incredibly gentle at the same time. The little puppy lay at their feet, dozing off, occasionally twitching at the sound of running water. When the dishes were done, Lee dried his hands and looked around as if searching for something else to help with. Anything else? Let me do it. That's all. Sam smiled. You already did plenty. Go sit on the porch and drink some water. They brought 2 glasses outside and sat on the steps. The sun was no longer harsh, only warm and mellow as it filtered through the bougainvillea vines. Sam leaned back against a column, while Lee sat slightly angled toward her, close enough to feel her presence, but not so close that she felt uncomfortable. The house looks so much nicer today, Lee said, glancing around. Thanks to you, she replied. No. Thanks to you, he said softly. I just followed your instructions. A light breeze swept through, carrying a few bougainvillea petals across the yard. The soft rustling of leaves and birds hopping from branch to branch made the whole place feel so peaceful that Sam suddenly found her heart settling. She turned to him. Thank you for coming over these days and helping me. Lee met her eyes, his gaze warm, sincere, steady. I'm not helping. I want to be here. He paused, then spoke even more gently, almost afraid of startling her. Next to you. The glass in Sam's hands trembled slightly. She didn't look away this time, nor did she avoid him. She simply stayed quiet, but it was the quiet of someone listening with her heart. Seeing that, Lee didn't move any closer. He stayed exactly where he was, close enough to make her feel safe, yet far enough to keep from pressuring her. The little puppy suddenly bounded out of nowhere and climbed into Sam's lap, curling up like a fluffy ball. She bent down to stroke its head, a soft smile blooming on her lips. Lee watched and couldn't help smiling too. See? It already chose you. I like it too, she murmured. Lee tilted his head slightly, eyes growing deeper. And do you like being beside me? Sam jolted. Her glass almost slipped from her hand. She turned her face away quickly, cheeks burning hot. She didn't answer. But her bright red ears answered for her. Lee saw it and chuckled softly. No pushing. No rushing. He simply lifted his glass and took a slow sip. It's all right, he said warmly, unhurriedly. I'll wait. In that moment, the small front yard felt like a painting. Under the bougainvillea vines, with 2 glasses of cool water beside them, a man patiently waiting, and a woman quietly opening her heart. The afternoon drifted on, golden sunlight tilting across the tiled roof and the pink blossoms overhead. After a short break, Sam brought out the new strip of artificial grass she had bought, planning to set it up near the fence to make a greener corner. Lee helped her pull it to the middle of the yard. The little puppy, as always, was overly enthusiastic, running circles, biting at the edges of the mat, then stumbling and rolling like a tiny cotton ball. This troublemaker is on a roll today, Lee laughed. Sam laughed as well, her eyes soft as she watched the puppy trying to tug a piece of grass 10 times its size. I think he's trying to help. Help or destroy, we don't know yet, Lee said, picking the puppy up and spinning it lightly. Son, let your mom and dad work. Sam's face burned instantly. What did you just say? Lee blinked, then burst out laughing when he realized what he'd said. I mean, he sees you as his mom, not that other thing. She turned away to hide her face, but her red ears betrayed her again. Lee noticed, and the corner of his lips curved upward with amusement. They continued spreading the mat. Lee held one end, Sam held the other. But just as they were about to lay it down, the puppy darted in between, crawling underneath like it had found a secret hideout. Wait. Lee panicked. He went under it. They both grabbed the mat, but it was too late. The puppy was already right in the middle, making a big bump under the grass. Sam laughed so hard she had to hold her stomach. Oh my gosh, are you playing hide and seek? Lee knelt down and lifted the mat. The puppy poked its head out proudly, then suddenly dashed straight toward Sam. She hadn't expected it, so she stepped back and misstepped slightly. Lee reacted instantly, wrapping an arm around her waist to catch her. Time paused. Sam was cradled in his arms. Their faces were only a breath apart. Lee's warm breath brushed her forehead. Her eyes lifted, right into his deep, gentle, and warm enough to make her heartbeat stagger. She quickly pushed away, flustered, heart pounding. I'm sorry. I didn't see. Lee cleared his throat, trying to hide his own embarrassment. It's fine. I'm used to it. That made her blush even harder. The puppy, oblivious, ran circles around them as if cheering for the moment. Once the mat was properly placed, Sam sat down and patted the puppy. You naughty thing, you almost made me fall. Standing beside her, hands in his pockets, Lee watched her for a moment before saying softly, but thanks to that, I got to hold you for a second. Sam looked up, startled, eyes wide. Lee didn't look away this time. His voice was low, steady, honest. Just that little moment was enough to make my whole afternoon. She lowered her head, heart racing, voice no louder than a breath. You say things like that. I get embarrassed. Lee laughed, a warm, deep, meaningful laugh. Then I'll say it again tomorrow. That single sentence made the entire afternoon soften. The breeze swept through the bougainvillea vines, petals drifting around them. The little white puppy ran circles like a child witnessing something magical without understanding it. And in that golden, gentle moment, under the warm afternoon sun, something between them quietly moved one step closer. Late in the afternoon, as the sun began to sink behind the rooftops, the wind grew cooler. After a long day of gardening and playing with the puppy, both Sam and Lee felt a little tired, but their hearts were light. Sam sat on the front steps, the little white puppy curled up in her lap. Lee stood out in the yard, looking up at the sky that had faded from pale orange into a deep violet. I should get going, Lee said, his voice tinged with reluctance. It's getting dark. Sam looked up, pressing her lips together. Okay, drive carefully. Lee nodded and turned his bike toward the gate. But just as his hand touched the handlebar, a strong gust of wind swept through. The sky suddenly darkened, as if someone had switched off the light. And then, zow zow zow, rain poured down all at once, so fast that within seconds the whole yard was a blur of white water. Lee turned back toward Tu Sam. Tu Sam looked at him. Both of them froze. "Looks like I can't leave just yet," Lee said. His hair was speckled with raindrops. His voice resigned but edged with a joy he couldn't quite hide. Tu Sam sprang up, clutching the puppy as she ran to the porch. "Come in quick. You're getting soaked." Lee hurried under the eaves. His shirt was damp and clinging to him, tracing the lines of his lean, solid frame. They stood facing each other, the rain falling behind him like a white curtain. In that moment, Tu Sam realized her heart was beating a little too fast. "I'll get you a towel," she murmured, then turned and hurried into the house. Lee waited, staring out at the rain. He wasn't anxious, wasn't annoyed. If anything, there was a quiet sense of contentment in his chest. Tu Sam returned with a soft bath towel. She stopped for a second in front of him, then slowly lifted her hands to dry his wet hair. The touch startled him. "I can do it, Mai. Be quiet," she said softly, but with enough calm authority to make him stand still like he'd been put under a spell. Her movements were light as air. The towel brushed against his skin, soft enough to make something inside Lee turn gentle too. The faint scent of her shampoo mixed with the cool, rainy smell still clinging to his clothes. When she reached his collar, her fingers accidentally brushed against his skin. Both of them stopped. The air seemed to grow still. The puppy, cradled in her arms, even lifted its head to look at them. Lee gently wrapped his hand around her wrist. Not tight, just enough to send heat rushing through her whole body. "Sam!" His voice dropped, low and warm in a way that made it hard to breathe. "I like it when you take care of me like this." Tu Sam pulled her hand back, eyes avoiding his, but her voice was as soft as a breath. "I just don't want you to catch a cold." Lee smiled, unable to hide it. "As long as you care about me, I'm already happy." Outside, the rain kept pouring down, drumming against the metal roof with a deep, steady sound. On the porch, it was just the two of them, one unable to hide how moved he was, the other too shy to speak, but in no hurry to walk away. Tu Sam kept her eyes on the puppy in her arms, but her heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of her chest. Lee watched her for a long moment, his gaze soft as the rain beyond the eaves, then said quietly, "If the rain stops, I'll go home." He paused. "But if it doesn't, I'll stay here with you." Tu Sam lifted her head, her eyes meeting his. The rain kept falling, but between them the distance was no longer the same. The rain didn't stop. If anything, it grew heavier. The sky outside had turned nearly black, sheets of rain hanging like white threads between earth and sky. I don't think you'll be able to leave anytime soon," she said, a little hesitant. Lee stood beside her, looking at the sky, then at her. His voice was low and steady. "It's okay. I'm not in a hurry." She lowered her head, her heartbeat stumbling like a frightened bird fluttering against her ribs. His shirt was still slightly damp. So was his hair. He looked both strong and so close, so real that she didn't dare look at him for too long. Holding the puppy, Tu Sam turned toward the kitchen. Sit and rest for a bit. Since the rain's this heavy, I'll make some dinner." Lee blinked. "I can stay for dinner?" Tu Sam paused, then nodded lightly, as if surprised by her own words. "Yeah, I think you must be hungry too." Lee smiled, a kind of soft smile that, if he'd had a mirror, he probably wouldn't have recognized on himself. He sat in the living room while Tu Sam went into the kitchen. The sound of rain on the roof blended with the rhythm of chopping, the clinking of pots and pans. It felt strangely peaceful, like a small family spending a beautiful rainy evening together. The puppy ran back and forth between them, sometimes looking up at Lee, sometimes trotting into the kitchen to watch Tu Sam cook. It was like a little thread tying the two of them closer. Lee's eyes followed her every movement in the kitchen, the tilt of her head, the way she washed the vegetables, the way she poured water into the pot. Small things, ordinary things, but to Lee they were inexplicably beautiful. When Tu Sam brought the food to the table, Lee almost froze for a second. Just a few simple dishes: fried eggs, boiled greens, caramelized fish with pepper, and a steaming bowl of soup. But with the rain outside the porch, the warm yellow light inside the house, and the shy girl gently pulling out a chair for him, everything felt so familiar, so homely that his heart tightened. As they ate, the rain still roared outside. Lee ate more slowly than he had at lunch, not because he wasn't hungry, but because he wanted to stretch this moment out for as long as possible. Your cooking is exactly my taste, Lee said softly, as if afraid to embarrass her. Then, I'll cook for you again tomorrow, she blurted out. They looked at each other for a second. Lee burst out laughing, and Sam turned so red she wished she could crawl under the table. After the meal, they brought 2 cups of hot tea out to the porch. The rain hadn't stopped, but it had softened into fine lines falling steadily. It sounded deep and soothing like a quiet melody. They sat side by side, not too close but close enough to hear each other's breathing. It's been a long time since I've listened to the rain and actually felt relaxed, Lee said gently. Hugging the white puppy, Sam gazed out at the shimmering curtain of water. Before, I didn't like rain. Back then the sound of rain just made me sad. And now? Lee tilted his head, asking. Sam stayed silent for a while, then answered softly. Now, it doesn't make me sad anymore. Lee looked at her carefully, his voice dropping a shade deeper. That's good. They sat like that for a long time. Neither of them said anything more. But in that silence, between the sound of falling rain and the warmth of the tea, something clear and gentle was taking shape. Soft, warm, growing slowly in both their hearts. Rain softens the earth, and the person sitting beside her was slowly softening her heart.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong kênh của mình và rất vui được mọi người xem hết video hôm nay của mình nha. Hiện tại video của mình đang kể về câu chuyện của cô gái từ Sam và chàng cảnh sát Lee. Thì sau những biến cố, hai mọi người vẫn luôn bên cạnh, đồng hành cùng nhau và trải qua những thời khắc ngọt ngào cùng nhau. Liệu rằng tình cảm của cảnh sát Lee và từ Sam sẽ phải gặp qua những sóng gió gì thì mời mọi người cùng đón xem ở những video tiếp theo. Và mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay của mình. Hiện tại những video của mình đang được phát hành vào khung giờ 7 giờ tối và 7 giờ sáng tại Việt Nam. Thì mọi người nhớ chú ý đón xem nhé. Và nhớ để lại cho mình một bình luận ở dưới phần bình luận để mình có động lực làm nhiều video hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người đã lắng nghe và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nhé.